Well, a beloved Colorado sportscaster and alum of CBS4 has passed away. Les Shapiro anchored sports here for nearly 15 years. Our Jim Beneman, Les's colleague and friend, looks back at a career filled with wit, knowledge, and dedication.
I know Larry Walker's around here somewhere.
Baseball was Les's favorite sport, and boy was he thrilled when the Rockies arrived.
We're going to shut it down in the clubhouse. We're probably losing our electricity anyway because of all the wind.
Les knew people in this town take their sport seriously, and he was a serious sports journalist.
Hey, how do you feel?
I can't put this in words, Les.
He knew everyone, nurtured terrific sources, and broke a lot of big stories about the Denver teams.
Hang with us here. It's a madhouse, as you can imagine. This is a very small locker room.
He was smart, focused, and perhaps most importantly in this business, authentic. Something viewers never saw was Les Shapiro, the journalism instructor. He loved working with young people eager to break in. ESPN's Chris Fowler interned with Les. So did our pal Rod Mackey from Channel 9. And Les taught an array of sports notables how to handle being on camera. Adam Schefter, Reggie Rivers, Joe Girardi, Dave Logan, and more.
You know, I'm glad I get to talk to you at the half instead of Bill McCartney because you have a lot more to say. All right, no comment from Dave Logan.
His colleagues, we always knew where Les stood. He demanded things be right. But he was also the consummate listener. And if he disagreed, which was frequently, it was always respectfully. And lest I forget, Les could be hilarious. He always had a great comeback for every joke or quip.
What do you think? I feel like I should be working at a restaurant. There we go. How's that?
Les's wife, Paula, is a Hall of Famer. And what a beautiful love they share. Sons Kerry and Jesse round out a great family. We'll all miss Les Shapiro. He loved his family, his friends, and the sports that he told us about.
And I'll have all the highlights for you at 5 and 10. See you then.
A great man, so greatly missed. Well, Les died after a battle with lung cancer, even though he never smoked. He was 65 years old. One of his peers, Vic Lombardi, simply posted online, R.I.P. legend. Well, Jim is going to talk with Vic about Les's legacy coming up tonight at 10.
Hey everyone, Jim Beneman, old pal Vic Lombardi, talking about another one of our old pals, Les Shapiro, who tragically has passed away at the age of 65. Lung cancer, never smoked a day in his life. You're a cancer survivor.
Yeah.
You know that tomorrows are never guaranteed. It's tough stuff.
Interesting that cancer is what brought us back together because, you know, I worked for Les, I worked with Les, and then we had about a 10-year, 12-year gap there, and then both got cancer, and then we worked together again. So life works in mysterious ways, and I knew that his diagnosis was much more dire than mine, simply put. I mean, he had stage 4 lung cancer, and he was diagnosed 5 years ago, and he went through several different chemos, as you well know, and it's been a long, tough journey.
Let's talk about happier times.
Sure.
When you were an intern at the Channel 4 sports office. What was it, and you're a sports fan since your birth, what was it about Les's style, the way he approached sportscasting, that you sat back and said, wow, so that's how you do it?
Let me tell you what made Les special and why he's so important to me is, you know, a lot of people go through this business and they come to work and they go home. Very few, the special ones, actually impart wisdom on others. He made a point to pay it forward. Now, it wasn't always easy working for Les. He was a hard ass.
Demanding.
He was very demanding. He was very difficult at times. But just like that tough coach, that disciplinarian coach that you'll never forget, that's what he was. When I think about Les and when I interned here in the summer of '88, the name Anthony Dilweg comes to mind. And here's why. He was running onto the set and he had a script that I logged a game. It was a Green Bay preseason football game. And he goes, "Are you sure this is the quarterback's name?" I go, yeah, that's it. And then as he's going out there, I'm like, oh my God, is it really? And I was so uncertain, Jimmy, and I was panicking. I was like, oh my God, I'm going to send him out there. He's going to be wrong. Thank goodness it was actually his name, Anthony Dilweg. But it's the kind of expectations that he thrust on people. He wanted to make sure your details are right, that your facts were correct.
And it wasn't something about a big Broncos game. It was an out-of-town Packers team
This
playing
was
a
a
preseason game,
game.
but it had to be right.
It had to be right. And that's the thing, the detail of every show You know, you can teach a lot in this business. There's only so much you can teach, but you can teach that. You can teach being right, and that's what he was.
And I think one thing, Vic, is he was so focused on excellence and everything being right. He wanted to make sure that the guys that came along after him, you and some of the other interns, you got that part.
Sure.
That was the most important thing he could impart on you in his mind.
Yeah, and you know, he did something special. And I don't know, I wish I was a little more like Les. I wish I had more patience, and I wish I paid it forward more. Like when I was a kid and I was an intern here, I'd say, hey, is there any way you can help me along? And he would say, okay, I want you to write the sportscast I just did tonight in your own words, and I'll look at it and see you're right. So we'd give him our scripts after the show, and he'd be there like that teacher with the red letters. Oh, this is terrible. I'll just do that again. And I remember just learning from him based on how to write for television. But that was Les in his element, man. He loved teaching. And I think every great person who is fulfills a different role in life outside of their careers, they're good teachers, and he was a great one.
Yeah, both of us coming up through broadcasting, we've all known the folks that say, I'll read the sports section in the paper, find out what I'm going to cover that day. Not Les. He wanted to break stories.
Well, that was the difference between Les and everybody else, to be honest with you. I have never met, and there will never be, another sports television journalist in this town that was as resourceful as Les Shapiro. He broke more stories than any television broadcaster in Denver history, and I don't think it's even close, to be honest with you. It got to the point where I know newspaper beat writers were aware of it and afraid of it because Les is going to have the story on the 10 o'clock news that night. And you know, those days are, for various reasons, it's a different business today. You know, Twitter's taken over that.
Sure.
You break stories on Twitter. You don't break it on the 10 o'clock news as much as you used to. But he was the king of that. And he would make a point every night to make calls, whether he wanted to or not. Call the local coach, call a local player. He would call people, and you know, you watch and learn, why are you spending so much time on the phone? That's why. He didn't get all this stuff from a paper. He got it because he talked to people.
Yeah. So many great sportscasters have gone, you know, you and Tom Green, and we've had so many, you know, Ron Zappolo, of course. People had a lot of wonderful choices if you were a sports fan.
Yeah.
People who tuned in to watch Les over the years when he was on, what was it about the sportscast? Well, why do you think he appealed to the loyal viewers?
First of all, let me say, I thought those were the halcyon days of sports. When Les was here, Ron, Tom, you know, all the old geezers, when you guys were all here doing it. I grew up with that, and it was wonderful because it was at its best, competitive best. And I think because of the credibility factor. You know, Les didn't suffer fools. The business has changed. We are as much entertainers today as we are informers. He was the inverse. He was an informer first. And after that, if you wanted to have some fun, you had some fun.
Right.
It wasn't about entertaining first. And it was a different deal. So that's something I always took to value, took to heart. And you know, obviously we're all different in our approaches, but Les was Les. Les had fun. You knew Les.
Yeah.
Off camera, he had more fun than anybody. But when he was on the air, he let you know what was going on. And that was more important than anything.
Yeah. Somebody said it so beautifully to me, one of our old acquaintances. Les knew just how seriously Denver sports fans take Denver sports.
Yes.
And he was the serious journalist for the serious fan.
And what made him different, too, is his fearlessness at press conferences. We all know that he was a good friend of Mike Shanahan's. Good friend. I mean, he'd go to Mike's house to watch games. And that even predated, you know, post-Shanahan retirement. This was a long time ago. But if Shanahan did a press conference at Bronco headquarters, Les wasn't afraid to ask tough questions. He would ask tough questions to anybody. The kind of question where you'd sit back and go, uh-oh. Ooh. But it was a fair question. Yes. And that's why he was so widely respected. And that's why a guy like Shanny welcomed him into his home, because he knew he did his homework. If you do your homework, you can do that.
Beautiful. That's all we need.
Great.
Thanks, buddy.